Assalamualaikum dan selamat pagi. Okay, for this week, we are looking for the ADHD, Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, and I really hope that you will look at for the full reference in the learning materials. And this presentation is based on Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. So, firstly, we will look at for the definition of ADHD. Okay, based on the formal clinical definition, ADHD is defined as persistent pattern of inattention and or hyperactivity impulsivity that interferes with an individual's functioning or development. So based on the definition, it is really important for you to know it is a persistent, meaning that it happened for a longer time of period, and it will interfere, mengganggu with an individual functioning or development. Okay, so we will look at for the ADHD vulnerability. Based on the study, there is possibility for 75%, 74% heritability of ADHD, and it is linked to brain express regulatory regions. ADHD also not only based on the genetics, it also overlap with the environment factors, which is the factors such as very low birth weight, prematurity, and also prenatal smoking exposure also can um, risk for the ADHD. And also temperament, which is reduced behavior inhibition, negative emotionally elevated novelty seeking. So you need to know that ADHD not only due to the genetics, but it also can be influenced by the environment and the temperament. For the ADHD, it is no biomarkers, which is there is no currently biological or neuroimaging marker used to diagnose ADHD, meaning that no blood test that can be done to indicate someone is having ADHD or not, and it is based on the clinical assessment involving neurocognitive deficits, which is working memory response inhibition, and tests are not sufficiently sensitive or specific, but the diagnosis remains purely clinical, which means for the diagnosis of ADHD, it is rely on the clinical perspective that can be done by the medical practitioners, okay, and it cannot be, and no biomarkers test for ADHD yet. Meaning that for the ADHD, it needs to be based on the clinical judgment involving medical practitioners to observe the behavior and to indicate this is clinically clinically affect the behavior also, or indicate the this behavior indicate for ADHD. Okay, it is also important for you to know that the symptom for the ADHD is evolve across the lifespan. Okay, in toddler or preschool, hyperactivity is primary, difficult to distinguish from normative behavior before age 4. Okay, meaning that untuk ADHD, it can be observed since prasekolah or tadika, which is behavior yang boleh dilihat adalah hyperactive. Okay, dan kita perlu tahu juga it is not easy to indicate ataupun nak bezakan normative behavior untuk hyperactivity ni before age 4, sebab kebiasaannya kanak-kanak pada peringkat umur prasekolah ni adalah aktif, bukan duduk diam saja. So it is not easy lah to indicate Maksudnya biasanya indication for hyperactivity tu biasanya doktor tak akan buat lah before age 4. Okay. Over the time, when the kids entering elementary schools, inattention emerge and causes visible academic impairment. And this is the time where the common period of identification, meaning that when the kids entering the elementary school, sekolah rendah, sekolah menengah, concern utama for the ADHD is inattention. Maksudnya kurang upaya fokus. Okay. Dan pada peringkat sekolah, uh, masa ini adalah sangat common lah untuk di kanak-kanak itu menunjukkan simptom kepada inattention sebab pada peringkat sekolah there are lots of academic demand. So kanak-kanak yang ada kesukaran dari segi fokus akan lebih ketara lah kesukarannya bila melibatkan di peringkat sekolah. Okay, adolescents, what happen? Overt motor hyperactivity declines, which is running or climbing lessons. However, hyperactivity become confined to figuredness or inner feeling of jitteriness. Okay, so over the time bila individu yang mengalami ADHD dah semakin dewasa, tingkah laku hyperaktif tu dah tak ada, dah kurang dah. Namun hyperactivity tersebut telah menjadi kepada figuredness or inner feeling. Dia dah melibatkan inner feeling. Okay, figuredness ni maksudnya dia tak boleh duduk diam tu, dia dah tak berlari ataupun tak memanjat. Namun dia mungkin lebih ketara. Contohnya bila dia duduk ataupun buat tugasan, dia akan lebih mudah untuk menggerakkan anggota badan. Okay, so over the time adulthood, what happened? Inattention and impulsivity remain highly problematic. Okay, restless and poor planning persist even when overt hyperactivity has diminished. So over the time bila individu yang mengalami ADHD telah dewasa, masih lagi ada kesukaran dari segi fokus dan juga impulsif. Okay, di mana dia mungkin mengalami masalah dari segi poor motor planning. Okay, it can be involving work ataupun dari segi keupayaan badan dia untuk rasa selesa, restless. Maksudnya dia mungkin kesukaan untuk sistem badan tu rasa relax bila dah semakin dewasa. Okay, so you need to know that the symptom for ADHD, it not only can be seen during it should be perceived, it should be already can be seen during the toddler. However, tingkah laku hyperaktif tu mungkin dah semakin besar, dia semakin berkurangan lah. Okay. Okay, next we are looking for the diagnostic gateway based on DSM-5. What is this? This is the criteria untuk the diagnostic ADHD be done by the medical doctors. Okay, so this is like a flow for the diagnosis. Okay, there are 5 criteria, which is A, B, C, D, and E. And after all the gateway is observed, the diagnosis will be confirmed lah. And it is really important for us to know that the diagnosis is based on the medical practitioners. Okay, what is gate A? Gate A is the symptom threshold. Okay, which is 6 plus symptoms or 5 plus for adults of inattention and or hyperactivity impulsivity. Meaning that for the first gate, okay, adalah simptom tu ada ditunjukkan melibatkan 6 simptom untuk kanak-kanak, dan juga kalau dewasa dia hanya melibatkan 5 sahaja untuk inattention dan juga hyperactivity impulsivity. Okay, gate B is age of onset. Okay, umur untuk tingkah laku ini iaitu several symptom present prior to age 12. Okay, simptom ini sepatutnya dilihat sebelum kanak-kanak itu berumur 12 tahun. Okay, gate C is pervasiveness. Okay, which is symptom present in 2 or more settings. As an example, it happened at home and also school. Gate D is impairment, which is clear evidence that symptom reduce social, academic or occupational functioning. And last one, gate E, which is exclusion. Okay, not exclusively during schizophrenia or not better explained by another mental disorder. So for the diagnostic gateway, there are 5 gates and we will look at more details in the next slide. Okay, what is the first symptom? Okay, you need to know basically there are two cluster for the ADHD. The first one is inattention, kurang upaya fokus. Okay, so for the inattention, there are 9 symptoms. The first one is makes careless mistakes, overlook details. Second, difficulty sustaining attention in tasks. Number 3, seems not to listen when spoken to. Number 4, fails to finish tasks or instructions. Number 5, struggles with organization. Number 6, avoid tasks requiring sustained mental efforts. Number 7, loses necessary item frequently. Number 8, easily distracted by extraneous stimuli. And lastly, forgetful in routine daily activities. So, for the inattention, there are 9 symptoms, and for the diagnostic threshold, it should be shown 6 symptoms for the children. For the adults, 17 years and above, it must show 5 symptoms. And this symptom must be shown for the duration at least for 6 months. So when you look at for the symptom, I really sure you can observe as a teacher. Okay, contohnya pada peringkat awal persekolahan, kanak-kanak mungkin yang darjah 1 ataupun prasekolah yang baru masuk sekolah, you can see kanak-kanak yang nampak tak boleh duduk diam. Yang ni inattention tak boleh fokus. Okay, bagi tugasan dia tak boleh nak buat lebih pada 5 minit contohnya ataupun dia gagal. Yang ni dia tak dapat nak bagi fokus. Yang ni dia tak dapat nak siapkan. Okey, dan juga dia mudah terganggu. Okey. Dan juga mungkin boleh nampak juga kanak-kanak ni bila datang sekolah selalu hilang barang. Okey. Dan dia tak nak buat tugasan yang melibatkan mental task. Okey, tapi kalau tugasan yang melibatkan bermain sahaja dia nak. Okey, so when you observe the behavior, you need to know that the behavior should be you should observe this for at least 6 months. Jadi behavior in attention, I will say it's very common to observe bila kanak-kanak itu pada peringkat awal masuk persekolahan. However, if the behavior remains shown by the kids over more than 6 months, it can be symptom for inattention. However, you need to know that the behavior ni, contoh untuk tempoh masa 6 bulan, adalah memang kanak-kanak tersebut datang ke sekolah lah. Okay. Next, cluster 2 is manifestations of hyperactivity and impulsivity. So, for the hyperactivity and impulsivity, there are 9 symptoms. First, forget, taps hand, feet, or screams. 2. Lift seats when remaining seated is expected. Number 3. Runs or climb inappropriately. Number 4. Unable to engage in leisure activities quietly. Number 5. On the go or acts as if driven by a motor. Number 6. Talks excessively. Number 7. Blurts out answers prematurely. Number 8, has difficulty waiting their turn. And number 9, interrupt or intrudes on others. So, for the pillar 2, manifestation or hyperactivity and impulsivity, it needs to be shown 6 symptoms over the 9 for the children. And for adolescent, it must be shown for 5 symptoms. And it needs to be shown for at least 6 months. Okay. Okay, tadi kita look at for the inattention. So, for the hyperactivity and impulsivity. So dia hyperactivity and impulsivity. Ada 9 simptom. Okay. You can also see this behavior at the school. Okay, mungkin kanak-kanak pada peringkat awal persekolahan baru masuk sekolah minggu pertama, minggu kedua nampak dia ada kesukaran untuk duduk lama di tempat duduknya kan. Lepas tu suka lari-lari. Okay, lepas tu juga tak duduk diam kan. Okay, on the go. Tak boleh duduk diam lah ni. Okay, juga bila cikgu tanya, tak sempat cikgu habis tanya dia dah jawab. Lepas tu suka bercakap excessively. Cikgu tanya satu, dia dah jawab 10 dah. Okey, dan lepas tu dia juga ganggu kawan-kawan. Contoh kawan tengah menulis, dia suka ganggu. Lepas tu dia suka juga untuk waiting for the turn. Okay, so I will say this behavior is very common untuk pada peringkat awal persekolahan. Kanak-kanak pada peringkat awal mungkin dia sedang belajar untuk mematuhi peraturan dalam kelas, mematuhi apa yang boleh dibuat di dalam kelas ataupun tidak. So over the time, if the behavior observed, you can see for more than 6 months, so that's mean the kids may have hyperactivity or impulsivity behavior. Okay, so it's really important lah untuk observe. Bukan observe behavior tersebut 1 bulan dah nak complain kepada mak ayah. Sabar sikit. I will say please observe for more than 6 for maximum for 6 months. Okay. However, jika perubahan ketara sangat, mungkin perlu bincang pada peringkat awal lah. Namun, untuk behavior ni, dia tidak boleh kita observe pada satu tempoh masa yang pendek sahaja. Okay. Okay, we now look at for the assessment boundaries. Okay, for I already mentioned about the symptom, which is the gate A. Now we are looking for the gate B. Gate B is the age boundary. Okay, it is really important to we know that the symptom must be present prior to age 12. Why? Because it requires substantial presentation during childhood. Symptoms first occurring after age 13 are more likely explained by substance use or another mental disorder. So, behavior inattentive, behavior of hyperactivity, impulsivity ni must be present before age 12. Kenapa age 12? Sebab pada peringkat 13 tahun ke atas, baru muncul behavior inattention, baru muncul behavior tak boleh duduk diam. It can be related to substance, penggunaan bahan terlarang lah, ataupun another mental disorder. Okay. Gate C, the behavior must be present in 2 or more settings, meaning that behavior yang ditunjukkan oleh kanak-kanak tersebut, contohnya cikgu nampak behavior inattention, hyperactivity di sekolah. However, adakah behavior tersebut juga muncul di rumah? Why? Because this to prevent misdiagnosed situational reactions such as a child acting out only in one specific class due to the conflict as a neurodevelopmental disorder. Jadi, behavior aktif, contohnya behavior aktif di sekolah ni, okay, it also must be shown lah kat rumah juga. So, bila cikgu ada concern berkaitan dengan behavior di kelas, perlu ada cross check lah dengan ibu bapa, adakah behavior ni juga perceive juga muncul di rumah. Okay, kita tak nak mungkin kanak-kanak tersebut ada behavior tersebut hanya di sekolah untuk ada kerana menunjukkan tingkah laku yang berbeza lah. Jadi, the context behavior tu must be present in more than one settings. Okay, next is gate D, which is the impairment boundary. Okay, what happened here is the reduced functional quality. Symptoms must exceed normative variance and actively disrupt academic, occupational or social success. Okay, so behavior yang ditunjukkan oleh the kids also must akan ada kesalah kepada functional at the school. Okay, contohnya dari segi participation dalam kelas dan juga dari segi performa lah dalam akademik. Contoh kanak-kanak yang ada kesukaran dari segi fokus dalam kelas, Dan sepatutnya dia juga akan ada kesukaran lah dari segi penguasaan akademik lah. In case ada kanak-kanak nampak dia tak bagi attention dalam kelas, tapi bila exam nampak tak ada masalah. So dia tak interfere pun. Okay. Okay, so anda dah tengok kepada simptom dan juga kepada uh, gate untuk ADHD. So you need to know that the ADHD has three types. The first one is combined, which is both A1, A referring to inattention, and A2 referring to hyperactivity met for 6 months. So for the first type is the combined, meaning that both symptom of inattention and hyperactivity shown by the kids, by the individual. Okay, second type is predominantly inattentive, which is A1 met but A2 not met. Okay, this one untuk inattention, kanak-kanak tersebut fulfill the criteria. But for the A2, untuk hyperactivity, dia tak fit. Dia tak ada 6 pun daripada 9 simptom tersebut. Okay, so ini adalah dia lebih dominan untuk ada kesukaran dari segi fokus, inattentive. Dan for this type, it's very common for the females to present with this profile. Perempuan, kanak-kanak perempuan lebih dominan kebiasaannya untuk inattentive type. Okay, and the third type is predominantly hyperactive, impulsive. Okay, meaning that for this one, based on the symptom, met for the A2, met for the hyperactivity, but not met for the inattentive. So remember, there are three types of the ADHD. It can be combined, predominantly inattentive or predominantly hyperactive. And for the severity, there are three level, which is mild, few symptom, beyond baseline, minor impairment, hanya ada sedikit, dan juga hanya ada minor impairment. Moderate impairment falls between mild and severe. Dia pada tahap pertengahan. And the severe many excess or severe symptom mark impairment in social or occupational functioning. So kalau severe, dia akan menyebabkan gangguan lah kepada fungsi sosial dan juga kefungsian. Okay, you need to also know that for the ADHD, it is also overlap with the other disorder, such as ODD, oppositional deviant disorder. Okay, why it overlap? Because this disorder overlap with the ADHD for the risky schoolwork and difficult behavior. Okay, ADHD also can be overlap with the ASD because the behavior can be overlapped for the inattention, social dysfunction, and difficult behavior. Anxiety disorder also can be overlapped with the ADHD because the symptom for the inattention and restless, and also PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, can also overlap with the ADHD due to the restlessness, irritability, and poor concentration. Okay, so when you met with someone with ADHD, okay, you also observe for the other symptom of the other disorder. Okay, and you need also to know that ADHD also comorbids with other conditions such as individual with ADHD may overlap with the specific learning disorders. Okay, also with the sleep disorders, medical conduct disorder, and also oppositional defiant disorder. So you need to know lah when you met a kid with the ADHD, that you see mungkin dia nampak aktif tapi nampak juga dia struggle untuk belajar membaca. Okay, so it can be overlap with specific learning disorders such as dyslexia. And kebiasaannya juga, based on the DSM-5, gender differences happen in which females with ADHD have higher rates of comorbid ODD, ASD, anxiety and personality disorders compared to males. Jadi individu perempuan yang mengalami ADHD, dia mungkin overlap dengan ada disorder lah, okay, berbanding dengan lelaki. So commonly this comorbid ni bila dia dah semakin dewasa lah. Biasa kanak-kanak mungkin awak akan jumpa, dan yang saya pernah jumpa adalah ADHD with specific learning disorders lah. Namun bila semakin meningkat dewasa, mungkin dia akan overlap dengan ada mental disorders. Okay, now we are looking for the pervasive impact. Okay, so for the symptom, as I mentioned before, when the kids is having inattention behavior at school, it should also relate to the academic performance. Okay, so what happened? Reduced performance and school attainment. Inadequate self-application is frequently misinterpreted by others as laziness or irresponsibility. So in terms of academic, the kids yang mengalami masalah inattention mungkin biasanya dilabel as a lazy kids lah in the classroom. Okay. Next, what happen is in term of social, dia akan bagi kesan juga di mana severe peer rejection, neglect, familiar discord, lower self-esteem happen. Okay, significantly elevated risk of developing conduct disorder and antisocial personality disorder. So in term of the social, individu with ADHD may have difficulty in social lah. So this can be due to the behavior. Dia tak boleh nak, dia ada behavior impulsif, so dia tak boleh nak menunggu giliran. Contoh bila bermain dengan kawan-kawan, dia nak turn taking ataupun nak bersabar untuk dapatkan sesuatu, bermain bersama-sama tu adalah lacking. Jadi kawan-kawan tak nak bermain dengan dia lah. That could be happen. Okay, occupational, what happen? This will be for the adolescent, for the individu dah yang semakin dewasa. Poor job stability, higher unemployment probability and reduced vocational achievement in adulthood, elevated interpersonal conflict at work. So dari segi aspek pekerjaan, kebiasaannya individu dengan ADHD ni tak boleh kekal lama pada suatu kerja tu. Mungkin sebab dari segi keupayaan otak, dari segi keupayaannya adalah terhad dari segi untuk fokus. Jadi mungkin dia buat satu tugasan tu belum siap sepenuhnya, dia dah nak hantar ataupun nak submit, ataupun bila dapat satu tugasan tu dia tak check in details sebab keupayaan fokus dia dah tak boleh dia ada kesukaran untuk fokus kan. So menyebabkan dari segi stability untuk kerja tu mungkin juga akan terganggu. Okay, physical and mortality, higher rates of accidental injury and traffic accident, and also significant risk factor for suicidal ideation and behaviour. So yang ni pun bila individu tu dah semakin besar, contohnya I will say individu, there is possibility individu yang suka memandu rempit yang berbahaya tu, ada possibility untuk dia sebenarnya mengalami kesukaran dari segi impulsif. Okay, dia melakukan sesuatu tu tanpa berfikir kesannya. Jadi dari segi injury, accidental injury tu adalah higher untuk individu yang mengalami ADHD. So, you need to know that for the diagnosis of ADHD, contoh kanak-kanak tu ada kesukaran untuk fokus. So, apa bukti dia adalah, buktinya dia tak boleh dari segi performa dalam akademik tu terganggu ataupun dia tak capai lah pembelajaran seperti kanak-kanak yang sebaya dengannya. Ataupun adakah kanak-kanak tu contoh mungkin you observe the kids that nampak tak berminat nak belajar, mungkin ignore ataupun tidur dalam kelas kan, tapi bila exam dia excellent. So dia tak interfere lah kepada akademik. Okay, tapi mungkin dia akan interfere kepada social aspek. Mungkin dia tak ada kawan. So for the ADHD, it is really important lah nak tengok behavior dia tu ada relation tak kepada functional consequence di sekolah, di tempat kerja atau juga dalam aktiviti sosial. Dan you need to know juga adakah behavior yang ditunjukkan oleh individu yang mengalami ADHD ni berlaku sepanjang masa. Contohnya kanak-kanak ADHD, adakah dia sentiasa nak memanjat? Adakah sentiasa nak berlari? Adakah sentiasa simptom itu akan ditunjukkan? Okay, the answer is no, because you need to know that the symptom yang ditunjukkan oleh individu yang mengalami ADHD ni, it can be vary based on context within a given setting. Okay, signs of the disorder may be minimal or absent when the individual is receiving frequent rewards for appropriate behavior, is under close supervision, is in novel setting, is engaged in especially interesting activities, has consistent external stimulation, or is interacting in one-on-one situations. Okay, so kebiasaannya tingkah laku inattention ataupun hyperactivity ni dia berlaku based on context lah. Okay, jadi behavior tersebut mungkin cikgu tak nampak ataupun dia akan hilang bila dia menerima, contohnya pertama dia menerima rewards untuk appropriate behavior. Yang kedua is under close supervision. Contohnya dalam kelas, cikgu dapati ada kanak-kanak ni ada kesukaan dari segi inattention. So what happen? Cikgu bagi fokus kepada dia. Contohnya dalam satu kelas mungkin ada 30 orang kanak-kanak dan cikgu kena pasti ada satu atau dua kanak-kanak yang ada masalah dari segi inattention. So apa yang cikgu buat adalah cikgu akan duduk di sebelah dan buat tugasan bersama-sama. So inattention behavior tu dah reduce lah sebab dia dah menerima close supervision. Okay. Next is in novel setting. Contohnya yang ni mungkin kanak-kanak tu di rumah dia sangat aktif, tapi tiba-tiba dia datang satu tempat baru tu dia nampak lebih behave. Okey, jadi dalam situasi yang baru mungkin dia tak menunjukkanlah tingkah laku aktif tu pada pertama kali tapi kali kedua, ketiga, keempat tu dia dah nampak lain dah. Okey. Next is engage in especially interesting activities. Yang ni contohnya kanak-kanak ni cikgu nampak bila dia melibatkan tugasan bertulis, worksheets, dia tak nak buat. Nampak inattention tu sangat ketara. Namun bila cikgu bagi tugasan yang menarik, engage, yang melibatkan dia kena buat, dia kena melibatkan dia hands on, tak nampak dah behavior inattention tu. So behavior inattention tu dah tak berlaku sebab dia sedang engage dalam interesting activities. Okay, next adalah dia consistent external stimulation. Yang ni contohnya cikgu observe kanak-kanak ni dia ada kesukaan fokus dalam kelas, tak nak buat tugasan dalam kelas. So cikgu tanya macam mana di rumah. Okay, ataupun dalam kelas cikgu nampak kanak-kanak ni sentiasa tak boleh duduk diam. Okay, ataupun just untuk 5 minit and then dia akan bangun, berjalan and then kena remind duduk balik. Okay, within 10 minutes bangun balik. So cikgu observe dia ada behavior on the go lah, sentiasa nak bergerak kan. So bila cikgu tanya mak ayah, adakah behavior ini berlaku di rumah? Mak ayah cakap no. And why? Bila cikgu tanya lagi apa aktiviti di rumah? Okay, dia ada consistent external stimulation, ada screen time yang tinggi. Jadi dia bila di rumah, bila dia engage dengan melihat TV ataupun bermain dengan device, electronic device, dia engage kepada tersebut, dia menerima external stimulation. So behavior untuk on the go, forget semua tu tak observe. Okay. And juga is in interacting in one-on-one situation. Okay, ataupun contohnya dia sedang individu tersebut on one-on-one situation. Dia sedang mungkin berkomunikasi satu dengan satu. Contoh mungkin kanak-kanak ni cikgu observe bila belajar dalam kelas, nampaklah dia tak boleh nak fokus. Tapi bila cikgu buat spesifik kelas dengan dia, one-on-one class, nampak dia boleh fokus. So itu disebabkan adanya different settings lah. Okay. So you need to know also the behavior of ADHD ni, it can be changed lah due to the environment given. Okay. So hopefully you are clear about the ADHD. And for the task, I would like to ask for you to do an infographic about gate for the diagnostic of ADHD, which is, I explained before this, it involves A to E. So I would like for you guys to do an infographic to explain for the diagnostic criteria of ADHD and submit the infographic in the system. Okey, jadi saya nak anda buat satu tugasan terakhir, iaitu untuk buat infografik berkaitan dengan diagnostik kriteria yang telah saya tuangkan melibatkan A to E dalam satu infografik. Okey, itu sahaja untuk kelas pada minggu ini. Sekian, terima kasih.